Science can do a lot today that can be efficiently used to communicate the truth to consumers. But what is hard to scientifically demonstrate is the causality between the soil, the tobacco, and the corresponding flavors in the final cigar experience. So, same for wine. Although there's a lot of sommelier, and Valerie, you might want to comment on this, there's a lot of sommelier that can, of course, identify certain characteristics when they taste wines, and they can tell from what terroir they might be. It is harder than it seems. I know some scientific studies that are made on the Italian Nero d'Avola, on the salinity of Nero d'Avola. And in fact, there they truly are demonstrating how the grapes that are raised in a certain area of Sicily and that receive the wind from the sea and the salinity thereof, then in the blind tastings, of course it has to be blind tastings, are found back by the assessors. Normally, brand specificity tests like l'amateur du cigar, like Cigar Aficionado and others do, they're not done blind. You always need to refer to a specific brand or a specific terroir. If you do it blind, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because, as you know, a cigar's flavor depends on a huge amount of factors, a huge amount of substances that are influenced basically by the varietal, by the terroir itself, also the geography, the climate, etc., the growing techniques, the technology factors, the fertilizers, the harvesting process, the foliage position in the plant. And all of these substances change during the post-harvest process. So during the curing, the fermentation, the blending, the aging, the storage, the combustion, the way we smoke the cigar. So basically, let's say that this is the agreement from a scientific perspective. This is the agreement I could find with the people I spoke to. You can have a deep experience with a certain tobacco varietal in a certain terroir when the tobacco is growing in a certain farm, following certain processes. And then you may train yourself on different crops. If you have access to a wider range of that one varietal representations, then you might differentiate that particular variety accurately. But there are not so many people who have access to all of that and who have been able to study all of that. It depends. I mean, you can have a Cameroon wrapper, for instance. That's a more limited region where these leaves grow. If you really study that, then you might differentiate that, considering that, I don't know if you have tasted Arturo Fuente cigars and compared with Christophe Cameroon wrap cigars. Now they're completely different because of the rest of the blend. Are there any comments or questions on this?
I want to kind of mention, like you talk about wine. When it comes to wine, when I went through my WSET program, Wine and Spirit Education Trust, we practiced a lot with different grapes. And, you know, let's take Pinot Noir, for example, because that's a monovarietal normally. Let's say for conversation purposes, we're talking Pinot Noir. So you can be alerted to flavor profiles that you can expect from that grape. But as soon as you change the geography, you know, Pinot Noir is basically a cool climate grape. When you try to move it to a hot climate, if you can get it to produce at all, you're going to get a different representation. These are clues that we were able to pick up on, but it came with practice and practice and practice and trying a whole bunch of different products from different regions.
Yes.
When it comes to tobacco, the industry is very young. Wine has had decades to build it up. They've had lots of educational programs that are standardized with basically what you do with Cigar Sense.
Yes. And you're right. And the examples you made with respect to the wine training that you had, that's exactly what we're saying when we talk about if you have access to a very wide representations of the expressions of a certain varietal. But then again, if it's grown in a different farm with different methods, etc., it's very hard. And now there's the other part that explains why even if you have those characteristics of a specific terroir and you smoked a purito like the blenders do, and then you can memorize, okay, so this was this tobacco, pure state, so okay, I memorize it. But this is not possible. Scientifically, you can say there are so many thousands of molecules in one leaf. And there goes a lot of transformation with the leaf itself, but the molecules from one leaf can influence the molecules from another leaf. They can amplify, they can cancel the flavor expressions of others because molecules work in that way. And this is why it's not just the sum of this burrito with that other burrito with that other burrito. You make a cigar of it and you have these. And that is the reason for which in the food and beverage industry, where they have more experience with these, companies are investing millions in sensory tests that failed because they didn't do it. Any comments?
Well, I also think exactly what you said with the blends. I mean, how many puros are out there actually in New World cigars? And now with, Claudio Scroy having left Mombacho, he was one of the blenders who was working towards terroir. And maybe he'll be able to, expand that to the rest of the producers in the area.
And that's a great point. Thank you for making it, because, and Claudio also is the first one who created the cosecha cigars according to the wine principles. So cosecha, a puro made of leaves that have all been harvested in the same year. The other thing is that according to our data, and probably you were all at that meeting where we were looking at the chart that was comparing the key flavors of puros of different countries. Okay, we had that open question about the Cuban cigars, but another key point that we had found was that there wasn't really a lot of difference if you look at just the flavor descriptors. If you compare the same flavor descriptors across puros of different countries, you might say there's only a little bit more spiciness that was found in the Dominican Republic. But this starts to lead the way to think it's not really about this singular, the specific flavor. Is the combination of different flavor elements. So the thing I wanted to say, I deviated a little bit, but to Valerie's point is there are Cuban cigars that are, if you compare based on this logic, that are more similar to some Dominican cigars than to other Cuban cigars. If you look up in the search one particular cigar, you can click on a button and say find similar cigars, and you can have the list ranked by similarity. You will find some puros from certain countries are more similar to other cigars, puros or not, from other countries. So if there's no more comment, I guess we can move on. Oh yeah, here is a slide that I wanted to show you just to give an idea when I was talking about the machines and chemical analysis. And it's very hard to get from the results of a gas chromatography analysis to a prediction of what a wine, a cigar will taste like. Basically, that's it. If there's no other comments or questions, then we can talk about the new descriptors proposals. What do you think?